lecture, I'm going to consider the transfer pricing. The transfer pricing. My lecture today shall cover 1. The meaning of transfer pricing. Meaning of transfer pricing. 2. Methods of solving problems involving transfer pricing. Methods of solving problems involving the transfer pricing. 3. Different forms of transfer price. Different forms of transfer price. So, before I define transfer pricing, let me start by illustrating with company. Supposing there is company XYZ PLC, XYZ PLC, and this company is having 2 divisions. Company X, Y, and Z is having 2 divisions. Division X and Division Y. Company X, Y, and Z is having 2 divisions. Division X and Division Y. Division X sells to Division Y. At the same time, Division X sells externally. Division X sells to both the Division Y and external customers. Division Y will need the material produced by Division X as raw materials for its production. Division Y will need the material from Division X as raw material for production. Remember, both Division X and Y are both divisions under the same company, X, Y, and Z PLC. If Division X should sell to Division Y, should the goods be sold at the market price, that is the price at which Division X sells externally, or should it be sold lower than that price? So the price at which goods and services are sold by the selling division to the buying division within the same divisional head is said to be the transfer price. The price at which goods and services are sold by the selling division to the buying division within the same organization is said to be the transfer price. Transfer price is the price at which goods and services are sold by the selling division to the buying division within the same organization. That is transfer price. So, forms of transfer price. Forms of transfer price. Number 1, we want to look at market-based approach. By market-based approach, goods and services are sold by the selling division to the buying division at the market price of the selling division. Meaning that if the selling division wants to sell to the buying division, the selling division will sell at the same price it sells externally. That is market-based approach. This market-based approach should be used where there are intermediate markets for the selling division product. Meaning that the selling division have market, there is external sales, external demand for selling division product, external demand or sales for the selling division product. Meaning that the selling division can sell externally. The selling division can sell externally. The selling division can sell externally. So where there are external markets for the selling division's product, then the market-based approach should be used. Meaning that if selling division can sell everything externally at the market price, that means the selling division will not be willing to sell at a price lower than the market price of the goods. Where there are markets for the selling division's product, so selling division will not be willing to sell lower than the market price for the selling division's product. In that case, if the selling division want to transfer to the buying division, the selling division will transfer at the cost price. At the selling price. So the selling division will transfer at the selling price. So that is market-based approach. I've told you that market-based approach should be used where there are markets for the selling division's product. So where there are markets for the selling division product, that means the selling division can sell externally. It is then that you can use the market-based approach. Then the second one is cost-based approach. Cost-based approach. Cost-based approach, meaning that the goods and services are sold by the selling division to the buying division at the cost of the product. At the cost of the product. The selling division sells to the buying division at the total or the cost to the selling division. The selling division sells to the buying division at the cost to the selling division. That is cost-based approach. This approach should be used where there are no external market for selling division's product. Meaning that the selling division will not be able to sell externally. It is then that the cost-based approach can be used. Where the selling division cannot sell its product externally, it is then that the selling division, the cost-based approach can be used. No external market exists. External intermediate market does not exist for the selling division's product. This cost-based approach, we are going to categorize it into three. Number one, full cost. Full cost. Under the full cost approach, the goods and services are transferred by the selling division to the buying division at the total production cost of the selling division. The total production cost per unit of the selling division. Meaning that the goods will be transferred by the selling division to the buying division at the total production cost per unit of the selling division. Sometimes the selling division may add a percentage markup as his own profit to that. So that is full cost. By total production cost, that means you want to consider the total variable cost per unit and the total fixed production cost per unit. Both the variable and fixed cost will be considered. That is under full cost based approach. The second one is marginal cost. Marginal cost approach. This approach, you only consider the variable cost of production of the selling division. Only the variable cost of production of the selling division will be used. That means the goods will be transferred at the variable cost of production of the selling division. Don't forget, I've told you that the cost-based approach will be considered, will be used where the external intermediate market does not exist for the selling division product. You only use the cost-based approach where the selling division cannot sell externally. So that is marginal cost-based approach. You only consider the variable cost of production. That is marginal cost-based approach. I've told you that the first one is full cost. The second one is the marginal cost. The first one, the full cost of production. The third one, the second one is marginal cost. While the third one is cost plus. Cost plus. Meaning that goods will be transferred by the selling division to the buying division at the total cost of production of the selling division plus a percentage markup. Goods will be transferred by the selling division to the buying division at the total cost of production of the selling division plus a percentage markup. Total cost of production per unit plus a percentage markup. That is cost plus approach. The full cost, you consider the variable cost per unit plus fixed production cost per unit. Variable production cost per unit plus fixed production cost per unit. Then that is under full cost. Under marginal cost, you consider the variable cost of production per unit. Under the cost plus, you consider the total cost of production per unit plus percentage markup. So that is different forms of transfer price. So we have the market-based approach where goods will be transferred at the market price, and I've told you that the market price will be used where external intermediate market exists for the selling division's product, meaning that the selling division can sell what they produced externally. Then the cost-based approach, I said it will be used where the external intermediate market does not exist for the selling division's product. External intermediate market where it does not exist for the selling division product. It is then that you can use the cost-based approach. So now, when you are given a problem involving the transfer price, before the cost-based approach can be used, I've told you that external intermediate market will not exist for the selling division's product. Steps in solving problems involving transfer price. Steps in solving problems involving the transfer price. The first step is to identify the maximum capacity of the selling division. Identify the maximum production capacity of the selling division. That is step 1. Identify the maximum production capacity of the selling division. The second step is to identify the transfer policy of the company, of the company's management. Identify the transfer policy of the company's management. Identify the transfer policy of the company's management. The management company may be that the selling division must sell to the buying division. They might have the policy that the selling division must sell to the buying division. In that case, that means before selling division can consider selling anything at all to the buying division, the demand of the buying division must have been met. Before the selling division can transfer anything at all to the buying can sell anything externally, the demand of the buying division must have been met. So that is number 1. Number 2, they might have the policy that the buying division must buy from the selling division, meaning that even where the buying division can obtain the same product externally at a price lower than what the selling division will be willing to offer to the buying division, the buying division must consider that policy. That is, they must buy from the selling division. That is step 2. Step 3. Another one, that same step 2, another policy. The buying division is allowed to choose where to buy the item from. The buying division is allowed to choose where to obtain their item from. That might be the policy. Meaning that if the buying division can obtain that product lower or cheaper elsewhere, they are allowed to go and buy anywhere. You have to consider that policy. So the policy has to be adhered to. Step 3. Consider if there is a predetermined. Consider if there is a predetermined. If there is a predetermined transfer price. If there is a predetermined transfer price by the management. Consider if there is a predetermined transfer price by the management. Where there is a predetermined transfer price by the management, you have to adhere to that. That means the transfer price set by the management have to be used. or where the method of determining that price is given in the question. So you have to follow that. You don't assume a particular method where that is the case. So the transfer price given in the question have to be applied. So you consider that. That is step 3. Step 4. Consider if there is a priority, consideration. Where there are priority consideration, meaning that in this case the demand of the buying division might be met before considering the external customers. So that means there is a priority consideration. In that case, you have to meet up the demand of the buying division before you can think of selling anything externally. The last step 5, identify the number of units. Identify the number of units. Identify the number of units demanded externally. Identify the number of units demanded externally and compare this with the maximum capacity of the selling division, with the maximum capacity of the selling division. You identify the number of units demanded externally and you compare that with the maximum capacity of the selling division. Identify the number of units demanded and compare it with the maximum capacity of the selling division. So that is the next step. So what you do is this. Let's assume the selling division have a capacity for 10,000 units. Then demand is, let's say, 6 units. In this case, there is demand limitation. Demand limitations. So meaning that there are no market for the selling division's product. No external market. No external market for all the selling division product. So where that is the case, so you apply a cost-based approach. So, but where external intermediate market exists for the selling division product, you use the market-based approach, where the external intermediate market exists for all the selling division's products. So, if the capacity is 10,000, as I've said, and the demand is 6,000, that means there is a demand limitation. So anytime there is demand limitation, you are going to use the opportunity cost. Anytime there is either capacity limitation, anytime there is limitations, the limitation could be capacity limitations, or demand limitations. Anytime there is limitations, that is either capacity limitations or demand limitation, you make use of the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost of making the transfer. So anytime there are limitations, it is only when there is limitation that the opportunity cost will be applied. I have told you that the transfer price can either have market-based approach or cost-based approach. That the market-based approach will be used anytime there are external market for the selling division's product. That is, the transfer price will be at the market price. But for the cost-based approach, I said the cost-based approach will be used where external intermediate market does not exist for all the selling division's product. So then you apply the cost-based approach. So this cost-based approach I've categorized it into three. I made mention of full cost. I equally made mention of marginal cost, that is the variable cost. Then I equally made mention of cost plus. I've told you that the marginal cost, that is the variable cost, should be used where there are no external market for the selling division's product. Marginal cost should be used. Marginal cost should be used where there are no external market for the selling division's product. Then, where there are limitations, I have categorized the limitations into two. I said capacity limitations and demand limitations. I've told you that where there are limitations, you make use of the opportunity cost of making the transfer. That is where there are limitations. So where there are limitations now, transfer price should be the variable cost of production of selling division plus opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. Variable cost of selling division plus opportunity cost of selling division. That will be the transfer price. Where there are limitations. The variable cost of production of the selling division plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer. That will be the transfer price where there are limitations. It is only where there are limitations that you make use of the opportunity cost. I've told you that the market base should be used where external market exists. Where there are external market for the selling division product, then you make use of the transfer the market price. Then where there are no external market, you use the cost based approach. Where there are no external market, you make use of the marginal cost, that is the variable cost. Then where there are limitations, those are the three scenarios I've given to you. Number one is where there are external market. Where external market exists, I said the transfer price should be the market price. And where there are no external market, the transfer price should be at the variable cost. And where there are limitations, either capacity limitations or demand limitation, the transfer price should be the variable cost of production of the selling division plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer. That is, those are the three cases or scenarios. I talked about demand limitation, where demand is lower than the supply. Where demand is lower than the supply, that shows that there are demand limitations. But where the supply is, let's say supply is 5,000 and demand is 6,000. This shows that there are capacity limitation. Capacity is lower than demand. That's to show that there are capacity limitations. So we want to take a question as a work example. Question as a work example. Example 1. Manuco Company. This question is obtained from ACCA study test by Kaplan. ACCA study test by Kaplan. Manuco Company has been offered supplies of special ingredient Z at a transfer price of $15 per kg by Hepco Company, which is part of the same group of companies. Hepco processes and sells special ingredients Z to customers external to the group at $15 per kg. Hepco bases its transfer price on full cost plus 25% profit markup. The full cost has been estimated as 75% variable and 25% fixed. Internet transfer to Manuco will enable $1.50 per kg of variable packing could be required. Discuss the transfer price at which Hepco should offer to transfer special ingredients Z to Manuco in order that group profit maximizing decisions are taken in each of the following situations. The first situation, Hepco has an external market for all its production of special ingredient Z at a selling price of $15 per kg. So meaning that you were told HEPCO, the selling division, has external market for all its production of special ingredient Z at a selling price of $15 per kg. That means external market exists. Since HEPCO has external market for all its products, HEPCO will not be willing to sell lower than $15. Because if the buying division refuses to buy from HEPCO, if Manuco refuses to buy from HEPCO, then HEPCO can sell everything externally at $15. Therefore, the transfer price, that is the amount at which this good should be transferred by HEPCO to Manuco, should be $15 less $1.50 per kg variable packing cost, which can be avoided. Meaning that since HEPCO and Manuco are within the same company, if HEPCO want to transfer, that means the packing cost will not be incurred. So that will be the only allowance that HEPCO can grant to, that HEPCO can grant to Manuco. So the transfer price should be $15 less packing cost of $1.50 per kg, which can be avoided where HEPCO transfer to Manuco. So that is for that. Transfer price should be $15 less packing cost of $1.50 per kg, which can be avoided where HEPCO transfer to Manuco. So that is, the transfer price is at the market price. You know, the market price is $15. So the reason is that HEPCO can sell everything externally. That is, external intermediate market exists for all HEPCO's products. So meaning that the transfer price, see the external intermediate market for all HEPCO products, you have $15 minus $1.50 per kg. So that will be $15 minus 1.50, that will give us $13.50 per kg. That is the transfer price. 2. HEPCO has production capacity for 9,000 of special ingredients Z, ingredient Z. And external market is available for 6,000. His capacity is 9,000 and he only have external market for 6,000. So now HEPCO production capacity is 9,000 kg. External demand exists for 6,000 kg. This 6,000 kg that HEPCO can sell externally, HEPCO will not be willing to sell it lower than the market price, since external intermediate market exists for the 6,000. So the transfer price will be $15 for the 6,000 kg less the packing cost of 1.5. Therefore, the transfer price will be $13.50. if HEPCO want to transfer the 6,000 kg because he has external market for that 6,000 kg, so it will be transferred at $13.50. Then the amount, there is a demand limitations here. There is a demand limitation because the demand is lower than the capacity. The demand, external demand, is lower than the production capacity of 9,000. Since there is a demand limitation, I've told you that anytime there is a demand limitation, you are going to make use of the opportunity cost of making the transfer. So for the 3,000, which 3,000 kg, which cannot be sold externally, you are going to make use of the opportunity cost of making the transfer for that 3,000 kg. I've told you that the transfer price should be the variable cost plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer, because anytime there is what, either capacity limitation or demand limitations. Anytime there is a limitation, then you make use of the opportunity cost approach. So the transfer price will be the variable cost of production plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer. So you will need the variable cost of production now. Now go back to the question. Now, HEPCO bases its transfer price on full cost plus 25% profit markup. Know the price. The transfer price was $15. So if it is now full cost plus 25%, that means the $15. The selling price is $15. Selling price is $15. That $15 comprises full cost of 100%, which is not known, plus markup of 25% of selling price, markup on cost, that is 25% of cost. 25% of cost, that gives us 0.5x. That is the markup, which was added to this cost to give us the selling price. The selling price. That means the selling price comprises the full cost, which is represented by X, plus a markup of 25% of cost. Markup of 25% of cost. Full cost 100%, which we have denoted by letter X, plus markup of 25%, which is 0.25 X. So when you sum it up, X plus 0.25 X, the coefficient of X here is 1. 1 plus 0.25 will be 1.25 X. That is selling price. And our selling price is given to be $15. Therefore, 1.25 X equal to $15. To make X the subject, you have X equal to 15 divided by 1.25. In order to make X the subject of the formula, you divide both sides by 1.25. 15 divided by 1.25, and that will give us 12. Therefore, X is $12. So, X is $12. That is, the full cost is $12. Alternatively, since you are given the selling price and you are given the profit markup is 25%. Mark up 25%, which is 25 over 100. Then, and what we are given is selling price. The profit expressed as a fraction of percentage of the cost price, that is markup. While margin is the profit expressed as a fraction of percentage of the selling price. Here, you are given the selling price, and what we are given is markup. What you need is margin, not markup. Then you convert your markup to margin. So, to convert markup to margin, you add the numerator to the denominator. The one at the top is called numerator. So, we have 25 over 100, then you have plus 25. So, that will be 25 over 125. That is margin. Margin is 25 over 125. Remember, you are given the selling price. Selling price is given to be $15. You have $15. Then you less profit. Less profit The profit, our margin is 25 over 125 times that $15. So that will give us the profit. $15 times 25 divided by 125. That will give us $3. If you subtract $3 from $15, you'll be left with $12. That is margin. That is cost. That is cost price. Cost price, which is the full cost we are given in the question. You have got the full cost. Now, and you were told in the question that the full cost has been estimated as 75% variable and 25% fixed. And remember, what you need is the variable cost, not the fixed cost. So the variable cost is marginal cost. I've told you that the transfer price will be the variable cost of production plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer. So what you need is the variable cost of production. Therefore, variable cost now, variable cost, you have been told of the full cost, 75% are variable. So 75% of $12, that will give us $12 times 75%. That will give us $9. So that means the variable cost of production is $9. So now that is the variable cost. Now remember, if they transfer the $1.50 per kg of variable packing cost can be avoided. So the variable, then when you less the variable cost of production is $9. From this $9, you less variable packing cost, less avoidable cost, which is $1.50. When you less that from $9, you'll be left with $7.50. That is the other variable cost. So your transfer price now, we said transfer price should be the variable cost of production plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer. Transfer price should be the variable cost of production plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer. Transfer price, our variable cost, which is $7.50. What is the opportunity cost of making the transfer? Now, opportunity cost is the value of the benefit sacrificed in expense of others. So, where you transfer, now if you have demand for 6,000 out of 9,000 capacity. Now, if you did not, and the remaining 3,000, if you did not transfer it, you don't have alternative into which that can be put. That means the opportunity cost of making the transfer. What will you forgo if you make the transfer of that 3,000? What will you forgo if you make the transfer of that 3,000? Remember, you cannot set that 3,000 externally, and you are not being told that that there are alternatives into which that 3,000 can be put. That means if you did not transfer it, there is nothing you can give from that 3,000. Therefore, the opportunity cost of making the transfer is $0. Therefore, the transfer price will be $7.50, which is the variable cost. The transfer price is the variable cost. So that will be the transfer price. So since there are what? Capacity limitation. The third one, Roman figure 3. Roman figure 3. HEPCO has production capacity of 3,000. There is capacity of 3,000 kg. Has production capacity of 3,000 of special material Z. An alternative use for some of its spare production capacity exists. There is an alternative use for its spare production capacity. This alternative use is equivalent to 2,000 kg. It has alternative use. There is alternative use for 2,000. Alternative use for 2,000 kg. Meaning that there is still demand limitation. there is still a limitation here, because what they have alternative use for is 2,000 and their capacity is 3,000. They still have limitation for 1,000 kgs. Let's go back to the question. Is equivalent, this alternative use is equivalent to 2,000 kgs of special ingredient Z, and will earn a contribution of $6,000. There is no external demand. No external demand. So this alternative use will fetch you contribution. Now, meaning that if you want to make the transfer of that 2,000 now, transfer of the 2,000, remember I've told you that the transfer price will be variable cost of production plus opportunity cost of making the transfer. So for the 2,000 now, for 2,000 kgs, transfer price, if they transfer the 2,000, transfer price, I said to the variable cost, and the variable cost of production is $7.50 per kg plus opportunity cost of making the transfer. If they transfer the 2,000, what would they forgo? If they decide to transfer this 2,000, what would they forgo? The contribution this one will fetch you. You have been told that the contribution from that is $6,000. Therefore, the contribution for gold now, they will forgo this 6,000. That is 6,000 divided by 2,000. If they transfer the 2,000, 6,000 divided by 2,000, that will give us $3 plus 7.5, that will be $10.50. So this will be the transfer price of the 10,000 kg, of the 2,000 kg. So the variable cost of production plus the opportunity cost of making the transfer. If they transfer the 2,000, that means the contribution of 6,000 won't have been earned. They will not earn the contribution of 6,000. That contribution will be forgo if they transfer the 2,000. That means the opportunity cost of making the transfer is the contribution that will be forgo from making the transfer. So that means the transfer price of that 2,000 will be $10.50. Then the remaining 1,000, you were told that there are no external market for 1,000 kg. 1,000 kgs. You were told no external market exists for the product. There is no external demand. So meaning that since there are no external demand now, the transfer price will be variable cost, which is of production, which is $7.50, plus opportunity cost of making the transfer. And what will be the opportunity cost? If they did not transfer the 1,000, so what can they gain from it? They will gain nothing. That means the opportunity cost of making the transfer is nil. Therefore, the transfer price of that 1,000 will be $7.50. So the transfer price will be $7.50. So for 2,000, that will be transferred at $10.50 per kg, and for the 1,000, that will be transferred at the variable cost of $7.50 per kg. So that will be the transfer price. That is the solution to the first work example. So before the second work example, I want to give you the format for preparing the income statement. Income statement in transfer pricing. Income statement. So, our profit statement. In our income statement, we have profit statement. XYZ PSC, profit statement for the period. So, division X, division Y. Remember, division S is the selling division, division Y is the buying division, combined, or let me say combined company as a whole. So you have revenue. This revenue will be categorized into two. Revenue from external sales external sales. Revenue from external sales. You know, it is possible for the selling division to be selling both internally and externally. The revenue from the quantity sold externally by division X, then the revenue from external sales of division Y, then the sum of the two will be the total external revenue. Then revenue from internal transfer. No, it is division S that transfer. So it is division S that will have revenue from internal transfer. For the combined company, you put dash. Inter-group items should be eliminated. That is why you don't have it in the total. So when you sum it up, you have the total revenue. From total revenue, you less total cost. The total cost, we can have variable cost, and this variable cost will also be divided into two. Variable cost from internal transfer. You know, it is the buying division that is making the purchase now, this time around. So it is what you have as revenue to the selling division will be a cost to the buying division. So in the combined company name. Then other variable cost of the selling division and that of the buying division, then the sum will be for the company as a whole. Then you also have fixed cost, selling division and that of the buying division for the company as a whole. You sum it up, you get the total cost. That is total cost. Let me title that B, total revenue, A. Then we now have net profit. Net profit will be A, that is the total revenue minus the total cost. That will give us the net profit. Total revenue minus the total cost. That is the profit statement. So, in transfer pricing. So we want to take example 2. Example 2. A company has 2 profit centers, center A and center B. Center A supplies center B center B with a part finished product. Center B complete the production and sell the finished units in the market at $35 per unit. That's to show that center A is the selling division, while center B is the buying division. There is no external market for center A's part finished product. Since there are no external market for center A part finished product, the transfer price should be at the marginal cost, that is the variable cost of production of the selling division. Budgeted data for the year is given. Number of units transferred or sold 10,000. Market cost per unit $8 and $2 respectively. Other variable cost per unit $2 and $3. Annual fixed cost is $60,000 and $30,000 respectively. Required. Calculate the budgeted annual profit for each division and for the company as a whole. If the transfer price for the components supplied by center A to center B is full cost plus 10%. Now, you have been given the predetermined transfer price of full cost plus 10%. That means you are not going to use the marginal cost of the selling division. No, you have been told there are no external markets. You will have used variable cost of production of the selling division if not for the transfer price, predetermined transfer price information you are given here. So, now what will now be your transfer price? Full cost. The requirement in A, full cost plus 10%. The full cost means the total cost. You have the cost which include material cost per unit $8, other variable cost per unit $2. Materials cost which is $8, other variable cost per unit, and that is given to be $2. Then we are equally given the annual fixed cost, which is $60,000. Now fixed cost per unit will be 60,000 divided by 10,000. That will be fixed cost per unit. Fixed cost, that will be 60,000 divided by 10,000, and that will give us $6. When you sum it up, you have $16. So that is the transfer price. Transfer price at full cost plus 10% plus. Okay, this is the total cost. Total cost. That is your full cost. Full cost is $16. Then plus markup of 10%. Markup of 10%. 10% of $16. That will be 1.6. When you sum it up, you have 17.6. This is the transfer price. Transfer price at full cost plus 10%. This total cost is the full cost. That is the fixed cost plus the variable cost. Now you now prepare profit statement. Profit statement. Profit statement. You have center A, center B, and company as a whole. Company as a whole. You start with revenue. Revenue, we have external and internal transfer. Internal transfer. Revenue external and revenue from internal transfer. Now, center A is the selling division. Center A have no external sales, but center B sells the 10,000 at $35. Center B complete the production and sells the finished units in the market at $35 per unit. So that is the market price of center B. So revenue now of center B. Revenue center B now. That is external. That is $35 times 10,000, and that will give us $350,000. $350,000. That is, center A have no revenue from external. Center B has revenue of $350,000 from external sales. For the company as a whole, you have $350,000. Then center A center A has revenue from internal transfer. Internal. And that internal transfer will be made at the transfer price, which is $17.60. $17.60 multiplied by the number of units transferred. The number of units transferred is 10,000 units. So we have 17.6 times 10,000. That will give us $176,000. $176,000. So revenue from internal transfer, and that is $176,000. You don't need to have it in combined. I've told you that intercompany items should be eliminated. The total revenue now. Total revenue. Let's label it 1. Then this is 176,000. This is 350,000. This is 350,000. From total revenue less total cost. Total cost. The total cost will be divided into variable cost. And you can have variable cost from internal transfer. Remember, center B is the buying division. Then what you have as revenue to center A will will be a cost to center B. Therefore, the variable cost of center B is 176,000. Then you don't need to have it in combined. Intercompany items should be eliminated. Then other variable costs. Other variable costs include material cost per unit, $8 and $2. Materials cost. For center A, $8 times 10,000, and that will be $80,000. That of center B will be $2 times 10,000, and that will be $20,000. So we have material cost, materials cost, $80,000, $20,000, total $100,000. Then, aside materials, we have other variable cost. For center A, we have $2, center B, $3. Other variable cost. A, we have $2 times 10,000, and that will be $20,000. For B, we have $3 times 10,000, and that will be $30,000. That is other variable cost. You have other variable cost. That is $20,000 and $30,000. Total, you have $50,000. To go back to the question, you have annual fixed cost. Center A, $60,000. Center B, $30,000. Annual fixed cost. Annual fixed cost, $60,000 and $30,000. Total, $90,000. Then when you add up the cost, then you have total cost. Total cost. Then labeled as 2. So when you subtract, you have net profit. That is total revenue 1 minus total cost 2. Then this will be 160,000. If you subtract 160,000 from 176,000, you'll be left with 16,000. 176,000 minus 160,000 will give us 16,000. Then when you sum up this, 176,000 plus, this is 50, 80 plus 80,000. That will be 256,000. If you subtract it from 350,000, then you have 94,000. 176,000 plus 20,000 plus 30,000 plus 30,000. That is 256,000. If you subtract 256,000 from 350,000, then you will be left with 94,000. Then this plus this 190, then plus 50. That is 240,000. 150,000 plus 90,000. That is 240,000. If you subtract 240,000 from 350,000, then you have a net profit of 110,000. That is where goods are transferred at the full cost plus markup of 10%. Center A make profit of 16,000. Center B make profit of 94,000, and the company as a whole make profit of $110,000. Then let's go back to requirement B. The requirement B, marginal cost plus 10%. Marginal cost plus 10%. I've told you that marginal costs are the variable cost. Marginal costs are the variable cost. So marginal cost plus 10%. That is the marginal cost of the selling division. So you have the marginal cost. So here goes to the question. You have material cost per unit, $8. Other variable cost, $2. That means the marginal cost will be $10 of the selling division. So we have materials cost $8. Then we have other variable cost, and that is $2. Total marginal cost $10. Then plus 10%. 10% of 10, and that will give us 1. If you add it, you have 11. This 11 will be the transfer price, where goods are transferred at marginal cost plus 10%. So you now prepare profit statement. Profit statement. So company as a whole, center B, center A. Center A, center B, and company as a whole. So you start with revenue as well. Revenue we have from external sales as usual. The revenue still, the market price is still the same. The market price of center B is $35 times 10,000, and that will be $350,000. $350,000. So combined company will still be $350,000. Then revenue from internal transfer. Internal transfer. Center A want to transfer at $11. Revenue from internal transfer. Revenue from internal transfer. Internal transfer at $11 times the quantity transferred, and that will be $110. So $110. $110,000. So when you sum it up, you have the total revenue of $110,000. Then you have $350,000, and then you have $350,000. That is the total revenue. Let me have it as 1. From the total revenue, you less total cost. You less total cost. The total cost will be divided into variable cost. Variable cost. As part of your variable cost, you have variable cost from internal transfer. The revenue from center A will be a cost to center B. That is $110,000. Because center B is buying from center A. You don't need to have it in combined. Intercompany items should be eliminated. The other variable costs include material cost, which is the same with what we have obtained in the other one. Since the material cost is the same. Material cost $80,000 and $20,000, total $100,000. Materials cost, that is $80,000, $20,000, total $100,000. Then other variable costs, same working. Other variable costs will be $20,000 and $30,000 respectively. Other variable costs, and that is $20,000 and $30,000. Total $50,000. Then we have annual fixed cost. Annual fixed cost. For center A, it is $60,000. Center B is $30,000. Total $90,000. When you add it, when you sum it up, you have the total cost. Total cost. Let me have it as 2. From the total cost, when you let total cost from total revenue, you have the net profit. Net profit, that is your total revenue, which is 1, minus total cost, which is 2. That will give us the net profit. When you sum up this, you have $160,000. When you subtract $160,000 from $110,000, then you have a loss of $50,000. Then, when you sum up this is 30, 60, 80 plus 10. you have 1 plus 110, which is 190,000. When you subtract 190,000 from 350,000, and that will give us 160,000. That will give us $160,000. Then 350,000. Then if you sum up this, 100 plus 50 plus 90, that will give us 240,000. That is the total cost. When you subtract it from the 350,000, that will give us 110,000. So where goods are transferred at marginal cost plus 10%. Sorry, this is 110,000 minus 160 to be loss of 50,000. Therefore, where goods are transferred at marginal cost plus 10%, the center A incur loss of 50,000, center B make profit of 160,000, while center C make a profit of 110,000. That is the solution to B. Then go back to the requirement C. Evaluate both transfer prices from the perspective of each individual division and from the perspective of the company as a whole. Evaluate both transfer prices from the perspective of each individual division and from the perspective of the company as a whole. Now, you want to evaluate it. Go back to the first solution. Here, you want to evaluate it from the perspective of the individual division and from the perspective of the company as a whole. Now, in C, aspect of the question, in C, now, where goods are transferred at the full cost plus 10%, center A make profit of 16,000. Center A make profit of 16,000. But where goods are transferred at marginal cost plus 10%, center A incur loss of 50,000. Ordinarily, center A will prefer the transfer price at full cost plus 10%, because that will enable the center A to make profit from the transfer. So, where goods, let me say center A now, perspective of center A. Center A will prefer the transfer price to be at a full cost plus 10%, because that will enable center A to make profit of $16,000 as against the loss of $50,000, as against the loss of $50,000 incurred where goods are transferred at marginal cost plus 10%. That is in the perspective of center A. Center A will prefer the transfer price to be at full cost plus 10%, because this will enable center A to make profit of 16,000 as against the loss of $50,000 incurred where goods are transferred at marginal cost plus marginal cost plus 10%. In the perspective of center B, where goods are transferred at full cost plus 10%, center B make profit of $94,000. But where goods are transferred at variable cost plus 10%, center B make profit of $160,000. Ordinarily, center B will prefer the transfer price at the marginal cost plus 10%. Center B will prefer the transfer price at the marginal cost plus 10%, because that gives center B higher profit of $160,000 as against profit of $94,000 where goods are transferred at full cost plus 10%. Center B will prefer the transfer price at marginal cost plus 10%, because that gives center B higher profit of $160,000 as against profit of $94,000 where goods are transferred at full cost plus 10%. Company as a whole. So, where goods is transferred at full cost plus 10%, the company as a whole make profit of $110,000. The company as a whole make profit of $110,000 where goods are transferred at full cost plus 10%. But where goods are transferred at marginal cost plus 10%, the company as a whole also make profit of $110,000. That means under both methods, the company as a whole make profit of $110,000 under both methods. So that is to show that the company as a whole will be indifferent as to the transfer price. The company as a whole will be indifferent to the transfer price. The company as a whole will be indifferent to transfer price, because both methods give the same amount of profit of $110,000. So that is for that. This is part 2. This is the part 1 of my lesson on transfer pricing. This is the part 1 of my lecture on transfer pricing. Part 2 shall cover the determination of transfer price from the targeted profit. It is a kind of work back from the targeted profit to the transfer price. Part 2 shall cover that, and if time permits, in part 2 I will also look at the determination of transfer price of the minimum amount the buying division will be willing to pay. I mean, the selling division, yes, the minimum amount the selling division will be willing to accept, and the maximum amount the buying division will be willing to pay. So part 2 shall cover that.